Today I'm going to show you guys how to make a hand-tied bouquet like I learned how to in PLS 240 at UK. But before we start, I just want to make sure everyone has all the materials. You're going to need a vase, some wax-coated string, scissors or stem cutters, one hydrangea, and then a variety of stems of whatever kind of flower you want. So to start off, I'm going to describe each of the different kinds of flowers to you and just give you some facts about them. So this is a hydrangea, and they grow in groups in flowering shrubs. Each individual hydrangea flower is really small, but together they create this globe shape that's really common, and that's what people think of whenever they see hydrangeas. There's 3 different kinds, and this one is the most common. It's called a mop head. Hydrangeas are really interesting flowers for a variety of reasons, but one is that they can actually take water from the face. So if they start looking droopy, you can just mist or spritz water on them and they should perk back up. And another is hydrangeas come in a variety of colors, but everyone really likes the blue. And the reason that hydrangeas become blue is because they're one of the only flowers that can accumulate aluminum, and the aluminum forms complexes that give the color, give that blue color. So if you're growing hydrangeas and you want them to be blue, you can add aluminum sulfate, and they should turn that color. Okay, so you probably recognize these as daisies, but fun fact, daisies belong to one of the largest families of plants in the world, and they're called vascular plants. And so they circulate nutrients and water throughout the entire plant. They make up almost 10% of all flowering plants on Earth. And daisies are also considered 2 different kinds of flowers. So the long colored petals that are usually white when you think of a daisy, but in this case are pinkish purple, are considered a flower, and then the tiny circular disc-shaped petals on the inside are also considered a flower. On to the next. If you're like me, you've probably seen this flower a billion times. I had no clue what it was called. This is an Ostromeria, also known as a Peruvian lily or lily of the Inca. They're a really nice and long-lasting flower that comes in a variety of colors, and they're grown from a bulb. This is one of the most easily recognizable flowers. This is a carnation, and lots of people don't like carnations because they claim that they're overused. But perhaps they're overused because they're such a sturdy and long-lasting flower. You can actually fluff them up if you don't like the shape. They come in a variety of colors. The original was pinkish purple, but now you can get them in anything from white to red, yellow, orange, peach. Colombia is the largest producer of carnations, and that's actually where this entire bouquet came from. And there's 2 kinds of carnations that we commonly see. This is a large flowered carnation, so there's just 1 flower per stem. But if you get tiny, they're called mini carnations or spray carnations, you get a variety of flowers on 1 stem. Okay, so now we have the last kind of flower, but we've got 2 different varieties here. These are chrysanthemums, so the green ones are called button palms, just because they've got a cute little button shape. And then these are just regular mums. And you've probably heard people say that they want to plant mums in their garden. Those mums are really different than these, just because garden mums are hardy and can last throughout frost and winter because they've got a great root system. And these are florist mums, which don't have that, and they really thrive in a warmer climate. The next step after assembling all of our supplies is going to be to go ahead and prep the flowers. So whenever you're making a hand-tied bouquet, you're going to use one hand to hold the bouquet itself and the other hand to design. So it's really hard to work with the flowers at all, whether they need to be trimmed or cleaned up while you're designing. So we're just going to go ahead and do all of that prep work first. So the flowers need to be good to go before we even start designing. So all we really need to do is go through and take off any of this greenery that we're not going to want to see in our bouquet. When it comes to Ostromeria, I'm not a huge fan of this anyways. I don't think it's very pretty. But the reason we need to do this is because we don't want any of this greenery to get into the water whenever we put our vase arrangement together. It's not good for the plants to take up the water that's in. So as you can see here, I'm doing pretty much the same thing with these mums. I'm just going to go ahead and take off any of this greenery that I don't want to see. So whenever I'm prepping things like these daisies, where as you can see there's lots of little stems and tiny flowers attached, we're going to go ahead and want to take those off too, because they're not going to fit into the design, and they're just going to tear at the hydrangea, and we really don't want that to happen. So when it comes to prepping the hydrangea, there's not really a lot that we need to do. You could take off these leaves right here, sometimes we call them a collar, but I think that they're pretty, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave mine on. The next step is to do what's probably the most fun about this entire process, which is to start designing. So we're going to use our hydrangea as an arbiter or a frame for the rest of our bouquet. So I'm going to start and put my daisies right in the middle here because I think that'll look nice. Like, I like to keep them close and tucked in, as you can see. So then I'm just going to start designing, and this is really whenever you let your creative juices flow and you do whatever you want to do. As you can see here, I've arranged my flowers to form this bouquet. I really like to keep them round and pulled in tight around the hydrangea unless I have a long line flower like stock or snapdragon to form up the back. So now to the whole reason that they called them hand-tied bouquets, we're going to use our wax string and tie our bouquet so that whenever we put it back into the vase, it's going to maintain the same form. So whenever it's designed completely the way that you want it, you're not going to want to make any changes after it's tied. You're going to take your string in your dominant hand, in this case it's my right hand, and holding the bouquet in my left, and I'm going to take the end of the string and wrap it around the bouquet once and make sure to tuck it under my thumb and just leave a little tail just long enough up here, just long enough so that you're going to be able to tie in a knot at the end. And so the real key to this is to go a little bit lower on the stem here. I'll show you. And you don't want it to be so tight that it's cutting into the stem, but you also don't want it to be so loose that you're not going to keep all the hard work that you've just done. So from here, we're going to continue wrapping around the bouquet, making sure that we're not snagging onto any flowers and that we're not making it too tight. So probably after wrapping around it 3 or 4 times with this wax string, that's going to be enough to hold it in place. As you can see here, I still have that little tail, and then I've got my string here. I'm just going to take my scissors, snip it long enough so that I can tie it, and then tie this into a knot. And like I said, this is probably easiest if you've got a partner, but you can definitely do it by yourself. Now we've got our bouquet hand tied, and you're probably wondering, what about all of these stems? So in this case, I'm using a vase about this size, so I'm not going to want all of these stems. It's not going to fit. So what you're going to need to do is just eyeball it and decide where to cut your stems, and you're going to want to cut those with your scissors. Ideally, we would use stem cutters, but most people don't have those laying around. So you're just going to want to trim the ends so that it's going to fit into your vase. And there you have it, a lovely hand-tied bouquet that you can give away or keep for yourself. It's not very expensive, and it's very fun. Thanks, guys.